Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. In this video, I am going over my Draftkings and Fanduel Week 3 NFL Final Look picks. Happy Saturday. I'm making this Saturday morning. It's 9 a.m. East Coast time. There's still a lot of guys that are questionable and game time decisions heading into tomorrow. So we'll get more news, obviously. So stuff in this video is bound to change, but I'll discuss what we have as of now. Let's go ahead and get started. If you guys enjoy the videos, appreciate it for the like button for me. Subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you for the support. Let's have a great week this week. Last week, kind of just one I want to forget about. Lots of good games tomorrow. Should be a good bounce back spot, especially looking at game stacking like the Detroit-Minnesota game. We have the Bills-Dolphins game, which is fun. We have a lot of other values to discuss on some other teams with guys banged up. Starting off at the quarterback position, top end, we do have all the good quarterbacks in here. Josh Allen gets a great matchup against Miami, a team that he's kind of owned over the years. He's played them a lot, and he's had a lot of success against them. They have one of the highest totals on the slate, and Josh Allen will probably be getting Gabe Davis back as well. He's currently questionable, but he said himself he's 100% expects himself to play. So with all the upside that he gives you, you're probably going to get another 30 fantasy points on DraftKings from Josh Allen. Jalen Hurts is a little bit cheaper. At week 1, he was very cheap, and if you guys kept playing him, his price has continued to rise. He's up to 76 on DraftKings, one of the more expensive quarterbacks on FanDuel as well, and he gets a good matchup against Washington, who's been giving up a ton of points to opposing teams. Their defense can't stop anybody, and so if you're going with any of these top guys, go with the two that give you the most rushing upside as well, with Josh Allen having almost a 30-point total, and Jalen Hurts not too far behind with a 27-point total. The mid-range, Kirk Cousins, just because they are tied with the Bills for having the highest total. After getting embarrassed on primetime, which is something he's kind of used to, probably will bounce back at home in a very good matchup against Detroit. It should be a shootout, and normally guys and teams that are facing Detroit, you worry about blowout. But this Detroit team is a little bit different. Their offense is different. They're going to be putting up points. They're going to move the ball. And so expect this one to be a kind of a back-and-forth game, which is great for DFS. So Kirk Cousins is definitely one guy to keep an eye on. Matthew Stafford as well. Arizona's defense, they gave up a ton of points to the Raiders in the first half, and then they kind of clamped down the second half. Some of that was due to Derek Carr making some mistakes. Because Stafford is basically like as mid-range as you can get, $6,500 on DraftKings. Affordable, similar price on FanDuel. It's based on with the other guys in that range. So looking at him, he's very easy to stack. With Stafford, you put in Kupp. You can put in Tyler Higbee as well, and then even Allen Robinson. Value plays, there's a number of guys below 6K on DraftKings this week. Jared Goff against Minnesota. If you are going to be stacking that game, definitely run some with Goff and St. Brown and Swift stacks. Even Hawkinson, who's kind of been quiet so far this year. Derek Carr against Tennessee. He was very popular last week. He was okay. He gave you under 20 fantasy points, but he didn't kill you. Now gets matched up against Tennessee, who's Henry's not looking as good as he has before, and it's probably because they don't have A.J. Brown, so teams are kind of just focusing on stopping Henry and not worried about the receivers at this point. So we'll see if that changes, but I really don't have too much confidence in Tennessee. They need Malik Willis in there as soon as possible. And then Marcus Mariota against Seattle. I just have a gut feeling that he's going to have a good game this week. It's a spot where the Falcons, they gave up a couple of games. They were right there, came back nicely. Against the Rams last week in week 1. They should have won against the Saints. But this is the week that I think they'll get it done. Mariota against Seattle. It's a good spot. They give up the 8 most fantasy points to tight ends. So it's pretty easy to stack with the Falcons as well. And all the guys that are cheap. You have Patterson is sub 6K. Drake London is sub 6K. And even Kyle Pitts is sub 5K. Running back plays. Lots of guys to consider. Top end, if you're wanting to go to a bounce back spot in Jonathan Taylor, he gets a matchup against the Chiefs. I personally like to pay up for wide receivers this week, just with how deep the position is. So I don't really see myself getting to Jonathan Taylor, but if you make a lot of teams, you can definitely have some with Taylor in there. Dalvin Cook, price has come down on him just because of how he's played, and other guys have kind of surpassed him in price. So the fact that he's sub 8K against Detroit, it's a great matchup. This could be one where Cook just goes off. He's going to have a couple of great games this year. Still, I do like Justin Jefferson, the receivers, but if you're making a lot of teams, I'd throw Cook in some. Mid-range, once again, is pretty strong on DraftKings, even on FanDuel this week. Leonard Fournette against the Packers. He's currently questionable, but he expects to play. And they're going to need him out there because they don't have Mike Evans. They don't have Chris Godwin. They possibly won't have Julio Jones. So, Fournette could be looking at more passing down work and getting more receptions out of the backfield. And first 2 weeks, he's gotten well over 20 touches in both. So give me that at very affordable price tag. Antonio Gibson against the Eagles. He's been getting the majority of the snaps out of the backfield with McKissick mixing in a bit. But against Philly, they've given up some good points and some high fantasy scores to running back so far this year. Big game they gave up to Swift in week 1 especially. And Gibson, if he's going to continue to get some targets out of the backfield, he's pretty valuable. And then I like CEH as well, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, going up against the Colts. You always want to get guys and running backs in high-scoring offenses. Just give you a lot of upside to score points, especially with Mahomes very pass-heavy, and Edwards-Helaire out of the backfield will catch passes and can have big plays that way. So, this week people are kind of going Gibson and some other guys in front of Edwards-Helaire, which could be a mistake. Value picks, David Montgomery against Houston. The Bears offense is never one that you want to go crazy with. Kind of learned my lesson with that. But Montgomery against Houston, they're dead last in giving up rushing yards per game. Montgomery coming off of a good week, even though the matchup wasn't easy against the Packers. He rushed for over 120 yards on 15 carries. Miles Sanders against Washington, just because very affordable on both sides. He's getting more touches this year. He's kind of established himself as the number 1 running back after last year they were kind of splitting a lot of time. But Gainwell's getting his handful of snaps. They're not giving a ton to Boston Scott. Always had a touchdown. But Sanders, if he's getting 15 plus touches, you'll be interested at a very good price tag. And they possibly could have even more value at running back with Josh Jacobs. Didn't travel with the team, but he's still being listed as questionable. If he's going to play, he's going to have to get there on his own. But if he's out, then probably Zamir White would jump into the starting running back role on first and second down. And then they have like Abdullah that they can give to third down work. And then Darrell Williams, with James Conner being a game-time decision. That one is a 425 start, so hopefully we'll have that news, but I'm not convinced. If we don't, still maybe leave a spot open for Darrell Williams. Him and Eno Benjamin will split some work, but I have more confidence in Williams getting like the goal line work. Wide receiver plays. This is one of the best wide receiver boards you'll probably get on DraftKings all season. We have all the top guys in great matchups. Cooper Kupp against Arizona. He hasn't missed a beat this year. So pay him if you want to. I like Justin Jefferson against Detroit to bounce back a bit after he got shut down by Darius Slay. He had a quiet game, but he still had 12 targets against the Eagles. And now, with how many points the Vikings are expected to put up, Justin Jefferson could have multiple touchdowns, and you might need him in your lineups this week. And then Stephon Diggs also against Miami. He's completely taken off this year. He got a little help with not having Gabe Davis last week. He got all the touchdowns. But still, in what should be a high-scoring game against Miami, you don't want to leave him out. Mid-range, you have A.J. Brown against Washington. Last week, he had a decent game, but it was all the Jalen Hurts show, and the Vikings weren't able to keep up, so they didn't have to throw much. They didn't score any points in the second half, which isn't going to happen too often. And I like Amon-Ra St. Brown against Minnesota. If you're stacking that game, it's perfect. You get Justin Jefferson, St. Brown in there. You can put in maybe a running back, but definitely like a tight end, and Irv Smith looks good. Getting 3 or 4 pieces from that game is probably something I'm going to be looking to do. Value picks below 7K. We have Jalen Waddle against Buffalo. He's getting a ton of targets, getting red zone opportunities as well, and he's getting a lot of targets inside the red zone. So he's viable with all the touchdown opportunity that he will have this week. Even though Buffalo's defense is scary, it's either going to go one of two ways. Miami's going to keep up and it's going to be a shootout, or they'll probably get blown out, or really see anything else happening. Gabe Davis against Miami, he's very affordable, 63. He could have a huge week. We've seen him go off. He's still questionable, but he expects to play. So why not? If you're looking to save a little bit of money from Stephon Diggs, you can go with Gabe Davis. Mike Williams, be a more valuable if there is no Keenan Allen, who's probably 50-50 shot he's going to play this week. If not, just had to hold him out against Jacksonville once again. Then Williams at 67 looks like a great mid-range play. And then values, we have Curtis Samuel against the Eagles. Washington and Carson Wentz making his, might have some revenge on his mind, although he could, just kind of fold. But Curtis Samuel, 51, he's gotten a ton of targets, gotten some rushes as well the first 2 weeks, and at 51, he's valuable for the 20-point upside that it'd give you. Russell Gage, if if they already don't have Godwin and Mike Evans. If they don't possibly have Julio Jones as well, Russell Gage, Brashard Perriman, they're going to get a ton of targets, even though the matchup isn't great against the Packers secondary. And then Greg Dortch at still affordable, like 43, valuable on FanDuel as well. Against the Rams, he's going to get targets with Moore out once again and possibly not having James Conner. So at his price tag, he looks good. And then one other guy you can mention is Renfro's been ruled out with a concussion. So they could possibly be having Keelan Cole and Mac Hollins getting a lot of the work next to Devontae Adams. I'd probably take a shot on Keelan Cole over Mac Hollins, but we'll see. Hopefully we get some clarity on that news. Tight end picks, another very solid tight end board. This week, the best we've had. Travis Kelce, top end against the Colts. Obvious, looking to pay it for anybody. Pay up for Travis Kelce. Fix that. It's Darren Waller's going up against the Titans. So, he's also going to be looking at more targets without Renfro, and the matchup isn't bad. Mid-range, we got Dallas Goedert against Washington. Him, Brown, Smith. They got a lot of mouths to feed in Philly, but at his price tag, he's definitely a good option if you're picking a bunch of teams. Higbee's been a target machine the first couple of weeks, and that should continue with Van Jefferson out again. It's very clear who the ball is going to. Kupp, Higbee, Robinson a bit. And then Gerald Everett, if there is no Keenan Allen, he should get peppered with targets once again. Value picks, got Kyle Pitts at the bottom against Seattle. Could be the week that he goes off. Got the coach talking about he's going to get the ball soon enough. He's kind of been sacrificing a bit. So hopefully this is a week against Seattle. It's a good matchup. They should put up points. He's due for a big game. And then Irv Smith is just very, very cheap in a good spot and should be getting more and more snaps as he works his way back from injury. He's looking very appealing on both sides. Defensive plays. So always like to go cheap at defense if I can, but your expensive ones, the Bills, just with if people are playing Miami's guys and if the Bills defense is low owned, it's a perfect opportunity to grab them. Chargers against Jacksonville. Not convinced on Jacksonville, even though they put up 24. Even though they blanked the Colts last week, but Colts just not looking good. Mid-range, you can go with the Eagles against Washington if you wanted to. Wentz has already had some turnover issues this first few weeks, and that's something that's plagued him his whole career, so could see even more of that against the Eagles. And all you need is a pick six or a fumble recovery touchdown to make your defense very, very, be in the mix to be in the optimal. Bucks against the Packers. Bucks secondaries look great. Their front sevens looked great. And the Packers don't have Watkins, a veteran, so they're basically relying on Lazard and a lot of young guys. So if those guys aren't able to get open, Rodgers should be in for a long night. Value picks. Love the Falcons defense against Seattle. Geno Smith. Pretty obvious there. $2,700 on DraftKings. Value pretty cheap on FanDuel as well. And then the Panthers, just with Winston playing with the bad back, and the Bucks were all over him last week. Panthers, they've been in the mix in both games. Have lost some close ones. This one, I think the Saints will win, but it should still be close. So, Panthers defense in play, in my opinion. But that's about it for week number 3. Let me know what you guys think. Best of luck. Stay tuned for more news. Hopefully we get some more clarity today, but hopefully we'll definitely have that news tomorrow before kickoff. Thanks for watching, and I will see you all next time.